At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast is now on YouTube. Go on YouTube and search Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast and click that subscribe button to never miss an episode. Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. Today we are doing 685. I am one of your hosts this week, Wrestling Chris G, and on the other line with me is my Halloween buddy. He kind of sucks the life out of you if you're around him too long. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing?
Fuck you too.
I knew it. I had that written down for the last time we were recording too. And I was like, I'm gonna use this, and it's gonna be funny as a one-off. Because I don't normally make fun of you when I do these intros. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna poke a little fun at him right now. Oh, how you doing, bro?
I'm good. Kind of wish it was more towards the Halloween time because then it wouldn't be so, I don't know. I don't want to say hot because it really hasn't been hot lately, but it's just been like meh.
Yeah, it has been meh. I am having a slight pool party gathering before I have to shut it down this upcoming Friday with another family couple that's coming over. They're bringing their kids, but outside of that, I think it's gearing down to where I'm about to start shutting my pool down on the outside because it's starting to be a little too cool to be outside enjoying it.
Yeah, just a bit. I mean, how much run have you gotten out of the pool this year?
Oh, I got a whole lot. Outside of these last 2 weeks, we were in it almost every day. I was taking the kids out, and my wife would be sunbathing because she wouldn't want to get in all the time because she's anemic and the water kind of makes her a little cooler. But outside of that, yeah, I got a lot. I got a lot more this year than I did last year. And
yeah, I imagine so.
And we have a brand new pool system, as I've told in a previous episode, that we've hooked up, and my pool has been crystal clear. I mean, it's a little green as of right now, but that's only because I haven't been running the pump for the past like 2 weeks, and so I just turned the pump back on. I added some chlorine. I cleaned the filter off, so hopefully the pool will be nice and crystal by tomorrow morning.
Nice. Now, yeah. How are your kids with swimming? Because the one time I've been in a pool with your son, like, you know, when we were like consistently like getting in and out and that kind of stuff, boy's move was to immediately put his face in the water. Remember, you had to keep telling him, "Boy, knock that off."
Yeah, well, he didn't know how to hold his breath, so he would. I'm gonna say stupidly, because he's my son, but he's
your son, yeah.
Yeah, he stupidly would just jump in the pool and wouldn't give a shit in the world as to what happened after he jumped into the pool. It's just the motion of actually just jumping in was just fun, and he would choke on the water. And I was like, boy, you don't know how to swim yet. I was like, stop doing that. But he's finally he got the backstroke down now. He can now he can paddle. We got to work on his forward stroke, but he can float.
Mhm.
Yeah, he can float on his back. He can hold his breath underwater now. Finally, even though the beginning of the summer was something else. He freaking puked in the pool. Oh my god.
Oh,
Yeah, that luckily luckily it since he did it and it was all water, it just took one scoop of the net to get it out, but but he jumped in and he came up gasping. He's like, bleh. And I was like, oh, Jordan. And he's like, I'm sorry. And I think he was embarrassed because we had some people over as well when that happened. So I
yeah,
think that kind of made him like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to do this. But ever since that moment, he's been good.
nice.
Like I say, he can float now. He can backstroke. He can doggy paddle. We just gotta work on his front stroke. Um, put the boy on a hoverboard and he's perfectly fine. Get the boy to fucking ride a bike is a whole nother fucking story. I've tried to get this boy to ride a bike for God knows how long and he can't do it. But for some reason he can skateboard and hoverboard and scooter. He can do all this stuff. But fucking riding a bike, I don't understand it, Doug.
What do you think the issue is? Is it
he
balance? Is it pedaling and steering? I mean, where does he?
it's the balancing on the bike because I don't think it's really the steering that much, but like I can get them and I can like give them a running start and I can push the mess out of this boy. And I mean I learned how
Nobody clip that out of context.
to nobody, no, not at all. But like I learned how to ride a bike up at my grandparents' house. Like nobody actually it's funny. Nobody really taught me. I think the closest person to actually teach me how to ride a bike was my grandfather. God rest his soul. Um, he he would like take me to the. He used to at his old house. They lived at the very bottom of a very steep hill. So the scuffs on
Ooh.
my knees were ridiculous. But he would take me to the top of the hill and just say, all right, Chris, and just push me. And I would just go down, splat, splat. But one day while he was working, I took the bike out by myself. And this was before you had to really worry too much about people coming up and snagging you back in the 90s. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so I took the bike all the way to the top of the hill and probably like maybe 5 or 6 times just going down and just pedaling really fast, really fast, really fast, and getting the grip of balancing and steering and paddling all at the same time. That I'm slowly starting to think that I just need to find a really big hill out here and just take his ass all the way to the top. And I'm going to tell him, all right, I'm going to push you. And you ain't going to tell your mama. But when you come back with scuffs and stuff, we'll say that you got into a fight and you had to use your karate. But I'm really debating on it because, I mean, the boy can do so much. Like I don't understand the logic. And maybe someone, um, email us or something, a tip. Maybe by the time that this episode goes out, he'll know how to ride a two wheeler finally. But uh, how can you balance on a fucking hoverboard? This boy can go like 90 miles an hour on a damn hoverboard, but can't fucking
No
ride a bike.
90, ain't no 90 miles an hour. I'm not letting you go away with that shit.
What's up?
90 miles an hour.
Did I say 98?
You said 90 miles an hour. I was like, that's a fucking car. Like,
This boy can go really fucking fast, is my point, on a damn hoverboard.
no
And
handle.
no handles, no nothing, just a skateboard. I can't even ride this fucking thing. And he can go around in circles, he can spin on this thing, and he can do tricks and stuff. And I'm sitting here watching him, and I'm just like, how the fuck can you do this on a fucking hoverboard? But I put a fucking handlebar in front of you, and it's basically the same fucking thing. And you just got to move your legs, and you can't do it. Like I don't know. I don't know.
Does it keep you up at night?
Yes, but but yeah. Anyway, though, we're here today. We are going over episode 685 of Pokemon Black and White, and you know that because you clicked on this damn episode. Today we are going over Scare at the Litwick Mansion, or translated from Japanese, the scary story of the Hitomoshi Mansion. The scare of the Hitomoshi Mansion. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, both kind of similar titles.
Yes.
The English is a little more to the point. I think you got to give me the English on this one, which
Yeah,
I feel like
I'm thinking the same as well, bro.
if anybody ever runs the numbers on these episodes, I don't know if I've ever taken the Japanese translation.
I think you have every once in a while. Like if it's like a legit, okay, this is what the episode is, and then you just look at the American version, it's like, where the fuck were you this week? So I think there's been small occasions where you actually chose the Japanese over the English, but it's very, very seldom. But
Right.
one final thing right before we get into this episode. So I sent you last week a screenshot of a tweet. And the screenshot of this fucking tweet was that we're finally, it makes no fucking sense why they're releasing it now. Why now? Fucking almost 2 years later. But we're finally getting the Arceus special done in English on Netflix, Doug.
Because they knew that we were in the clear, we had already done it, so they knew it was safe to release it.
Yeah, they're like, oh, okay. Are you ready to jump into this week's episode, bro?
I think before we start the episode, I think you should give people the code for the Pokemon pack.
Ooh, so they listened to the beginning of our show and they're getting the code. Today's code is as follows: JWK RJB9 RJY HRC. That is the code this week, everybody, and you will find out what came in this. I should tell you what pack this is. This is a Pokemon Sword and Shield Brilliant Stars booster pack.
Nice.
So that is your code. It is a white border, which means that it's a dud pack, most likely. Let me see. I'm kind of curious as to what. Yeah, it's a fucking dud.
He spoiled it for himself.
I
help
did.
himself.
I couldn't. But all right. Thank you for that, Doug. I forgot that we don't do that at the end of episodes anymore. I got to start giving them out randomly for people that actually listen to the show. You get a nice treat.
I figured every once in a while we kind of go on a bit of a rambly intro, and I figured this is a good test to see who all sticks with it. Because I wouldn't get the code because I scrub around.
So you don't. I know you don't listen to us review the episode, but you do listen to like the intro, right?
You're right. I would probably get it this week. Because I do go until you go, all right, now it's time to get into the other. That's when I scrub.
Because you be making notes over there. You're like, all right, so he cut all of this shit out of this episode.
I know we sat there and talked for 5 minutes on that.
But hey, my editing skills are good. It's like if you don't know, you would never know, right?
No, I mean I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just saying it's like, okay, I know there's a chunk missing. I sat here.
You sat here for this amount of time.
Sat here and talked to you.
So not to rush, but there's a dynamite episode going on, Doug.
God damn, I told you not to. You have it on, don't you?
No, I do not have I do not have it on. I'm just looking at the time. We're doing this early today so we can watch wrestling at a decent time tonight, because tonight is supposedly the return of Kenny Omega, everybody. And that is my favorite wrestler, active wrestler.
Watch it be Kota Ibushi.
I know, right? So, we're not going to fast forward through the episode, everybody. But
because this episode's a fucking banger.
Yeah, this is a really, really good episode. We're just getting it done early so we can enjoy some nice wrestling as soon as we are done. So, Doug, my man, I don't normally do this, but would you want to start this week's episode?
I can definitely start for you.
All right. Everybody, hit that button. We're going on in.
I already hit the button. Download the episode. So yeah, we start this week's episode with our heroes walking, and they're exhausted because it is hot. And boy, do I know this feeling. Oh, it's a scorcher, and it sure is, and they're just dragging, and and then they're like, oh boy, it would be nice if we could get some relief, and we focus in on Iris, and she's up. Rain soon. And she goes, I smell rain. And Ash looks up and goes, seriously? And and it's the classic, like, sunspots and everything. I mean, it's
crystal blue sky.
And Ash says, you know what, I'll tell you what. If it rains one single drop, I'll walk on my hands.
I hope you're ready to eat your hat and walk on your hands, bro.
I was going to say, that's exactly my line when I'm confident something's not going to happen. I say, I'll eat my hat. And the amount of times I've had to backpedal on that lately, I don't like. But I should.
You're getting old, man. You're getting old.
Well, you can't be eating those hats because they gum you up. And then, Pikachu's like, oh, it's funny shit. And she goes, basically towards the viewer and says, mark my words, it's going to rain. And not 2 seconds after that, just thunder and lightning and just downpour. And she's like, ah.
She's like, I told you.
And they completely take off. And they're running for cover because they're out in the middle of nowhere with this storm, and they come upon an abandoned, or what looks to be an abandoned mansion. And it's big old house, and it's got some overgrown like weeds and shit on the front.
And not to cut you off, but you saw how far away they were from this mansion from when they started running, bro. Like they were easily running in this rain for about 20 minutes before they actually reached this house. So they are so. Yeah.
they are soaked, but we've only got 18 minutes in the episode. We can't have them realistically walk into this place because then you'd only be dealing with about 10 minutes, and they cram a lot in this episode as it is.
I know.
So Ash is banging on the door. Hey, is anybody there? What, let us in. What the fuck? I'm basically swimming in my shoes. Um,
And he
Iris actually using some manners. She's like, "May we come in?" I was like, "Okay, when have you ever been that polite?"
never. And Ash is like banging on the door. And of course, from there, the door fucking just opens. Like it always does on a
Open.
Pokemon episode when they.
Yeah, o- you know, opens on a Pokemon episode, a bad horror movie, even a good horror movie. Just
So.
ask if anybody's there, and then bang a couple times. It'll open.
So from here, we get the intro to the Pokemon Black and White theme song. Still not one of my favorites. Um, but we come back and we finally get the narrator who's talking. He's like, a dark and rainy sky casts an eerie pall over the surrounding of our heroes as they continue their journey to Nimbasa City Gym. And they walk inside this mansion and they're calling. They're like, "Hey, is anybody here? We need shelter until it stops raining, please." And I'm sorry. It still kind of fucks me up how these kids just walk into random houses. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, did Ash not learn in the Safari Zone when he had a gun pointed like right at his face? Like, don't be going places that you should not be going, because what if this guy had a gun in here? And but um Iris is like, yeah, it doesn't sound like anybody's here, but I'm sure they wouldn't mind if we just stayed here and dried off and waited for the rain to go. Silence like, yeah, it looks like nobody's here. And then we go into some high tech shit, and we see a camera at the front of the building on a computer, and it looks like, and as it pans back, it looks like there's a camera in every single room of this mansion. And all of a sudden we get Jesse and James and Meowth, and they're like, "Oh, the twerps found us." Of course, after finding a perfect hiding spot for our super secret hideout, they show up, and Meowth's like, "Yeah, perfect." And and then they're like, "Yeah, I'm afraid this turn of events could ruin our whole plan." Jesse goes. And they're like, "Oh shit." And James like, "Those twerps, they're always putting a crimp in our style." And Meowth is like, "Yeah, I'm gonna stick it to him." And Jesse's like, "Yeah, you know what? Why don't we just go and capture Pikachu and then chase off those losers away from here?" And we pan away and we see a whole bunch of Litwick playing around with James Yamask. And they're like, "Why don't you call him over and have the Litwick go over and distract Pikachu, so or distract the trainer so we can capture Pikachu?" And James calls over Litwick and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Would you tell Litwick to catch Pikachu and chase away those twerps and his friends quickly?" And Yamask is like, "Yeah." So he goes back over and speaks in his Yamask voice, and Yamask is like, "All right, Litwick, follow me." And then from there, they go and they start following Yamask. And then we go and pan over to Ash Ketchum walking into a random room, bro.
Make mention of the first shot that we get of Jesse, James, and Meowth, because obviously we clearly know that it's them, because we know their hairstyles and however many talking Meowths are around. Their eyes and their face are in shadow,
Yes.
and when you finally get an up close view of their faces, and first you kind of chalk it up to them being annoyed that Ash and the crew found their hideout. But you can see a little hint something might not be right with this situation, but you obviously, you just dropped into the episode. You have no inkling as to what, but just the look on their faces, they're not as
Defined.
confident. They're not as defined and they're not as confident as they have been in previous episodes during the black and white run.
Yes. And coming back and knowing what happens in this episode, I do love the foreshadowing for viewers for viewing this a second time. Because
Mm.
if because when you watch this episode again, like just all the thought that they put into all of these episodes, and I really do think that there's a different director that directs these like horror type Pokemon episodes because every single time there's like a horror episode, these episodes are bangers. And
Right.
just the thought that goes into all of these horror episodes is just astounding. And the artwork that goes into it as well. So, but all right, bro. So Ash Ketchum walks into the next room. Do you want to go? Or you want me to continue?
I'll go because you were teeing it up to me to begin with. I backtracked us.
No, you're good.
So Ash walks into what looks to be like a sitting room because he's got a couple of couches and it looks like there's a fireplace and there's no light. And Iris is like, well, this place looks deserted, and Silent's like, yeah, it might be, but what other choice do we have, especially with the storm going on? And Silent's like, if there's anybody here and they're upset, obviously we'll just point to the rain and say, we're already swimming, basically, at about 2 gallons of water in my shoes.
For real.
We'll go from there. And they're sitting. They're not sitting in the sitting room like they could be and possibly should be. They're just on the floor, and Ash is like, "That's a hell of a downpour, isn't it?" And Iris can't help but
Gloat.
gloat a little bit because she's just as bad of a kid as Ash is, even though she'll never admit it. And Silent's like, I chalk that up to your instincts, and you clearly know what you're talking about. And Axu's kind of like, yeah, damn right. And Ash is like, well, I suppose we were wrong, and a bet is a bet, and got to give Ash a little bit of credit. He's like, I did say that I would walk on my hands, so this motherfucker stands up and says, I'm keeping my promise, and he
the look on Iris and he goes and it jumps on his hands. She's like, is he really doing this?
See, he was damned if he do and damned if he didn't, because if he didn't do it, say, oh, just like a kid not living up to his promises, all talk, no action or whatever. And because he did it, oh, what a kid walking on his hands. I hesitate to say, I would normally say because she's a 10-year-old, but you know what I would say.
Yes.
Stuck up something or other. I said, oh, what a kid. And then the one of the windows blows open and Silent's like, how about that wind, huh? And he closes the window and he throws down the little latch and he's like, that should do it. And of course it doesn't. And then this is when a bunch of spooky shit all starts to happen at once. A vase bubble on the table.
Starts vibrating and the whole table just shoots over at him.
First kind of have to go, wait,
Ash is like, what the fuck was that? But do you blame him though?
I mean, how often do you get attacked by uh, lamp um, end tables?
Yes, for real. And this was the most creative. So right after that, Silent and Ash get freaked out for what's coming right behind Iris. And coming down these motherfucking stairs is a whole bunch of like pots, pans, let's see, what a picture frame and a head statue and an umbrella. And I'm gonna toss out there that this statue looks a whole lot like Giovanni when they tilt it forward and they like start having it race
Right?
after all of these race after our heroes. Like didn't you get that as well, bro, when you were looking at this?
Not when I first watched it, but when I was acquainting myself, like I thought that looked familiar. Yeah, I mean, and maybe that's because he's one of the very few adults that we've had like prolonged interaction with, so we would know him kind of out of a crowd.
Yeah.
That had to have been on
On purpose.
purpose.
Yeah. I really think it was, bro. So but yeah, and it's pretty funny. So the statue starts chasing him, and when we finally see the statue actually chasing him, the statue is made like it's supposed to be like a human body, and the umbrella is being swung like a sword after everyone, and it's like, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you. And as our heroes are, they're like, fuck this. Let's get out of this house. A freaking dresser drawer goes and plops up right against the entrance to the mansion, and they're like, oh, what is going on? And all of a sudden they're like, oh man, we can't get out. And they turn around and the statue goes head first straight into our heroes. And our heroes jump out of the way in the nick of time. And the statue and everything just goes smashing right into the door. And the creepy Giovanni looking statue, which doesn't look like Giovanni anymore, comes and crashes right next to Silent. And Silent's like, oh my God, get it away from me, get it away from me. And they just run.
Yeah, he takes off first, and Ash and Iris have to follow him because obviously they don't want to be alone in this creepy place. And then when we pull back out and we see Rocket's view from the command center in the attic, and Jesse's like, "It's strange that they blocked off the exit. Didn't we tell them to get Pikachu?" Um,
and
and
sorry.
no, and you get another shot of James and Meowth, and once again, and it's a little more pronounced on James and Meowth. It might be on Jessie, but she's kind of lit more by the computer screen. Once again, you can see
They look tired.
yeah, something's not right. Like they're just doesn't look like their heart's completely in it. Like you said, they look tired. Something's going on here.
Yes. So so from here they're like, man, um obviously the Litwick didn't understand what we told him to do. So I guess I'll have to go and tell your mask. And then we just jump right back over to our heroes, and our heroes are all out of breath. They're sitting at a really, really nice table. And they're like, man, what's up with this place? So I was like, man, this table is fully set, which means someone must be here. And then out of nowhere, the bell starts to ring again. well, not again, but the bell starts to ring on the table, and Ash's chair starts to levitate. And then here comes Silent, here comes Iris, and then it's like they're on a roller coaster because the chair is just like swinging all around. And then this was kind of effed up a little bit. So you see the silverware and the plates pick up off of the table, and it's not even just there was no spoons. It was just knives and forks with the plates, and the knives and the forks turn right towards our heroes and just go straight for their face, and our heroes are like, "Oh my God, no!" And they kind of jump down, but then Litwick didn't didn't act. They were just trying to spook them, so they like rushed them off of the chairs, and our heroes plop to the floor, and you see everything. And then a hand reaches out to Ash, and Ash is like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And you look up, and it's three headless um, people. Well, it's three headless costumes that are just dancing around in this room, and then that just scares our heroes again, and our heroes are like, "Oh my God, no!" And from here, we see Pikachu get plucked up. Doug?
I mean, this is some straight out of Scooby Doo shit, and like you said, they go running. Pikachu gets stung. Um, they're running hither and yon, and the dresses are moving around. Pikachu's scared, so his one move is electric attack. Um, and then we see the aftermath of Ash, Silent, and Iris just in a heap amongst a bunch of clothes that are clearly now uninhabited. And they're just like, what the fuck is going on with this place? And then the four Litwick that we saw earlier come out from under a set of clothes, and Pikachu sees them. And when Pikachu sees them, Ash does have enough foresight to pick his own head up. He's like, wait a minute, hold on. And three of the Litwick take off, but the one at the rear trips. Unfortunate for him.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because we see from the Litwick's perspective, he turns around and Ash is just looking probably the creepiest he's ever looked. And he's like, "So you're the one that's been scaring us," and it's kind of an interesting perspective considering that the shit that the Litwick have been putting Ash and company through. And this is when I think it's Silent says it's a Litwick, and Ash goes, "What's a Litwick?" And he has to pull out Dexter, because I don't think Ash could identify his ass from a hole in the ground if he didn't have Dexter. And this is when we find out that Litwick is a candle Pokemon.
Yes.
And this is when we get a really creepy section of a entry where Dexter says Litwick appears to be helping guide the way of people by illuminating the darkness. Literally get butt, and then Dexter actually malfunctions. Like your phone when you don't have service. And
yeah,
Ash is like,
Litwick, stop that real quick. They're like, yeah, you don't need to know the rest of this.
Yeah, we've got time. We're not going to give you all of our shit right away. And if this would happen to my phone, I would be more concerned. But Ash is like, well, that's weird.
And they all start talking to Litwick, and they're like, well, you don't need to scare us. We're not here to steal anything. The only reason that we came here was to simply get out of the rain. And Litwick is like, oh, well, we were told to scare you. And Litwick's like all confused and like Litwick, Litwick, Litwick. And they we cut to another scene and they're walking in a hallway and they're like, "Hey, so where are all of your buddies anyway?" And Litwick is trying to explain, and Ash is like, "Man, I wonder what it's saying." And then we get a Yamask, like actual mask that pops up in front of Ash, and Yamask comes back. So he was invisible, but then made himself like seen, and Ash is
Mhm.
like, "Man, it's your mask." And your mask is just disappearing, and they're like, "Oh, it's the work of the twerps." And then all of a sudden you see Meowth hanging out with the Litwicks. He's like, "Yipes, the twerps!" And Ash is like, "What are you doing?" And Ash is like, "No, not staying long." And Ash is like, "No, you stop here." And Meowth and the Litwick just take off running. And this place has so many twists and turns inside of this mansion that as soon as Ash turns the corner, Meowth and the Litwick are gone. Doug?
Right. So, so obviously the only Litwick that's left is the one that is Silence holding, and even that liquid, like, pardon me, god damn it, has a look on his face like you don't know half of the shit that's about to fucking pop off. And Silence like, what do you think Team Rocket's up to? That was probably a lot because we haven't seen them in a couple episodes. So pissed off we didn't get them last week. I was mad. Like it's
Ah.
gotten to the point where if I don't get a little bit of even a hint of Team Rocket, I'm like, what even was this episode for?
Just makes you upset.
And Iris is like, I'm sure if it's Team Rocket, it's no good. And Ash is like, yeah, it's probably just dumb old Team Rocket. We're gonna find out what's wrong and fast. And then we just do a smash cut to Jesse, and this is like one of the first times that Jesse's just like looked completely
Out of it.
frazzled. I mean, she is. I mean, her facial features are sunken. Um, she's got a few random strands of hair out of place. Um, and she's we find out that Meowth is in between Jesse and James, and she's like, "Twerps didn't see you, did they?" And Meowth's like, "Yeah, they did. What are you gonna do about it?" Um, she's like, "What were you thinking?" And obviously, watching as many black and white episodes as we have, even episodes period, Jesse would be screaming this.
Yes,
Like,
but
how could you be so careless? How, and she'd be hitting him, and James would probably get a few because he would have some smart ass comment. But
but they just don't have the energy.
yeah, that's exactly it. She's completely just existing.
So from here, they're like, "Man, you don't look good, James." And James is like, "Me? Fancy that." And Jesse's like, "Is something going on? What's going on with the two of you?" And James is like, "That includes you. You don't look good either. It looks like you've been working 24/7." And the Litwicker in the background just dancing and having a good old time. And then they're like, "All right, let's not worry about this. Let's go ahead and just get chase these twerps on out of here." And then we get a nice little glimpse of the outside. It's still raining, and they're like, "Man, all right. So here's to success and to conquering Unova. Doing it for the boss. Your mask." And your mask jumps in, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't have that much energy anymore." And the Litwick run over, and they're just sitting in front of Team Rocket again. And James is like, "Is it me or are the Litwick's flames larger than before?" And he's like, "No, you're making that up." And he's like, "Look again." He's like, "Yeah, no, you're right." And they're like, "You're both right." And he's like, "Well, whatever." please tell these Litwick to chase the twerps away again, Yamask, and go and capture Pikachu. And Yamask is like, all right, let's go. And the Litwick are like, all right, we're going to do it this time. And then we get the Who's That Pokemon, and it's Litwick. It's actually a fucking Pokemon that's in the damn episode, Doug.
I was honestly a little concerned that they were going to pull a little bit of a spoiler and they were going to do his evolved form. They actually went with the rational choice of it being Litwick. I was very satisfied.
So,
but
yeah.
So yeah, we
now we're back with the twerps, Doug.
Start that stuff. And basically because they're the baby faces in the group, they think that they can just stand in the middle of a room and just demand that Team Rocket show up. They're like, "Oh, right, come on, come out now. We're up to your games." And Silent's like, "Stop hiding." And Iris is like, "Your plan's not going to work." I mean, stupid baby faces, really. I mean, don't go looking for them. Just stand out in the middle of the frickin' library, whatever this is, and just demand the Team Rocket show up. And then this is when we see some more tables get possessed, and then they look over and they can see that Litwick is doing something. So they can see like that Litwick is for sure controlling this.
And they're like, please tell your friends to stop. And Litwick looks all confused, and then all of a sudden the tables just pop up and just starts ravishing with them again. And then they all run away, and then they stop, and it seems like they lost Axu. Doug?
Yes, because they were running away from chandeliers. There was like 5 of them. I mean, that's what happens when you got a house with that big of ceilings. You got to fill it with something. And with Axu being chased very closely by a Litwick, we're in. I think we're back in the dining room, possibly, and 3 of them plus Pikachu are just sitting there. What the fuck is this place? Is bullshit. And Pikachu's like, yeah, you're not kidding. And Silent's like, what's that Litwick's problem? Why did he attack us? And this is the first time that Iris looks up and realizes that Axu wasn't with him. And Ash is like, I thought Axu was running right behind Pikachu. Pikachu's like, I didn't fucking see him. And then, Ash is like, what happened to that Litwick that Silent had? And Iris is like, what about the other one? And then
from here, we're back with Team Rocket.
And James is like, uh-oh. And like, what's wrong? And James is like, Yamask seems to have disappeared.
So he's forgetting what he told Yamask to do. He just told Yamask, go and capture Pikachu and do it right this time. So he's losing his memory.
Yes. And Jesse tries to reassure him, and James is just kind of like, well, I hope you're right. And we go back to the crew, and they're looking for Axu, and who stops and is looking behind him, and there's nobody there. Pikachu's just completely freaked out, and then have this really cool close-up shot from over Pikachu's shoulder of a Litwick just looking menacing, and Pikachu turns around and is like, ah! And the amount of fade to blacks in this episode, I think that's like the 5th fade to black that we've already had, and we're only like 11 minutes into the episode.
I
So
know.
I mean, we're halfway done, obviously, because we hit the who's that Pokemon. But and then this is Ash's turn to go. All right, where's Pikachu?
Yep, Litwick has captured Pikachu, or that's the assumption that we got in that previous scene. And Ash is like, "Yeah, where is he?" He's like, "Pikachu was just here a moment ago." And Iris is like, "Don't tell me they got Pikachu too." And Ash's like, "Man, we gotta figure this out." So Ash starts backtracking. He's like, "Pikachu, Pikachu," and Iris is like, "Ask you, Pikachu." Yeah, because Iris is actually concerned about both Pokemon, Ash Ketchum, not just your
Yeah.
Pikachu. And they're like, "Man, could Team Rocket be behind this?" And Ash's like, "I don't know. Even though you just saw Meowth and you saw your mask, so you know that Team Rocket is behind this somehow." But we go back up into, well, I'm going to call it the attic, is where Team Rocket is. I mean, they have this whole beautiful mansion and they're stuck in this damn attic. But they're like, "Dr. Zager, this is Jesse. We think we found the perfect building for our Unova headquarters, but we need your help." And Zager's like, "What kind of building is it?" He's like, "It's an old mansion and it's huge and perfect kitchen, bathroom, walk-in closets, elevators, and a group of Litwick." And he's like, "Did you say Litwick?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's right. They're very good Pokemon and do exactly as they're told." And Zager is like, "You better be careful." And they're like, "Why do you say that?" He's like, "I've seen much research that concludes Litwick feed off life energy of both people and Pokemon." And they're like, "The life energy? What are you talking about?" He's like, "I've actually been meaning to research the phenomenon myself." And then all of a sudden the computer just dies. And there's Litwick right in the back. And their Team Rocket is like, "Dr. Zager, Dr. Zager." And Jesse's like, "So does that mean?" And James is like, "Man, those Litwick have been feeding off life energy." And they're like, "Ours?" And Jessie finally takes out her makeup mirror and she looks at herself and she's like, "Ah!" She's like, "So that's why we look so drained." And she's like, it's hard to breathe." He's like, "Enough. We need to leave now," James goes. He's like, "Wait, where's Meowth? Meowth was going to check on the Litwick," Jessie goes. And they're like, "Oh no." And we cut over to Meowth. Doug?
And he's just staggering down a hallway, and he's like, this isn't great. I'm having trouble breathing. Um, Strange. And then he runs into a Litwick, and he's like, "What are you doing hiding down here?" And he's like, "I thought I told you to hurry up and chase the twerps away." And the Litwick's like, "I'll fix you." And he picks up Meowth like they've been picking up the kids' dining table and all the furniture and stuff. He's like, "I think this is a psychic attack." No shit.
Meowth is like, "Oh no, oh no." And then we go back over to our heroes, and they're still looking for Axu and Pikachu. And Silent's like, Ash, you remember earlier when your Pokédex just stopped working in the middle of describing the Litwick, right?" He's like, "Yeah, that's the first time that's happened." He's like, "So can you open it up again?" And Ash's like, "Yeah, sure." So Ash opens up Dexter again and is like, "Litwick, the candle Pokemon." Litwick appears to be helping to guide the way of people in illuminating areas that are darkened. But in reality, they are actually leading them to the ghost world. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on here?" And we get a nice little pan shot of all of our heroes just looking scared with lightning flashing right behind them. And Dexter continues like, and uses its fuel for the flames on their heads. And it's like, wow, does that mean that our lives are in danger? So Litwick cut off the Pokédex because they didn't want us to know that. So we've got to find Axu and Pikachu now. So they put their search into hyperdrive and they start running. And we go back and we're now back at the computer that was monitoring all the cameras that were put inside of this mansion. But Team Rocket is nowhere to be found. And James and Jesse are
Right.
walking in the hallway again, and they look drained. Doug.
And they just, they can hardly put a sentence together. And eventually Jesse just screams out, "Give me back my life energy!" And like one of the last things she should have done, because obviously she's struggling to
To breathe.
cling to struggling to breathe, exactly. And then we hear a elevator ding, like it arrived at its floor, and opens up, and a wave of water just comes for him. And pardon me, this is a reference to The Shining, but obviously in The Shining the elevator was full of blood, but you're not going to put uh,
What was
that
that?
amount of blood on a kid's show.
What was that a reference to The Shining?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that. Good catch, Doug.
Not the first one in this episode either. I'm
Oh.
sorry, not the last one. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Um, and Ash, we're back with Ash and the group, and Ash comes around the corner and goes, "There they are." Um, and Iris joins him, and we see two Litwick standing at the end of the hallway, and Iris says, "What have you done with Axu and Pikachu?" And maybe I'm reaching, but the way the two Litwick are standing kind of looks like the twins in The Shining. And I might be reaching for that because I know there's definitely another one coming, and you'd like to believe that they try to put three
Yeah.
references in.
And and now that I'm looking at this, because they do walk down the hall just like the twins do. So I think you're good to say that that's how they were portrayed in this episode.
Yeah, especially because, like I say, the next reference is a for sure reference, and that would make three and the whole rule of threes thing. And then so Ash, Iris, and Silent um, through a set of double doors into what looks like a courtyard. This is when we see all of the Pokemon in the episode. So we see Pikachu, Axew, Meowth, and Yamask all kind of lying in a heap, and um, Ash and Iris run over to their respective Pokemon. Ash is like, "Are you all right?" And Pikachu's like, "Not really." And
This gets creepy really quick.
the door shuts, and Silent for some reason goes right up to the door. Water water goes spewing out the door, and then um, we see a glowing red eye, and then it's Jessie poking her head right out of the crack in the door, just like Jack Nicholson does in The Shining. Kind of disappointed she didn't say, "Here's Jessie," but I guess I was asking for too much.
Yeah, she goes like she's like, "There you are." And man, this got creepy quick. Like this scene by itself frightened my son when we were watching this. He's like, "Man," he's like, "Why do they look like that?"
Pardon me. And then this is when they do I'm gonna say an altered version of their motto, um, both in words they use, and obviously you can tell that they're basically running on fumes. And um,
Yeah.
maybe if you have the captions on your end, it would be better. But I can
Yeah,
just
I can say it. So as soon as they bust through this, Jesse's like, you must have questions. We're impressive indeed. James goes, but answers will come as we feel the need. And Jesse's like, bringing the blinding white light of evil into the future. Then James, thrusting the hammer of justice onto the blackness of the universe. And Meowth is like, carving our names in the rock of eternity. And he does his claws. And Jesse's like, the Fury Destroyer Jesse. And she's gasping for air. James is like, and with thunderous emotions, I am James. And Meowth is like, wisest of the wise, I'm Meowth. And they're just gasping. And he's like, and now gather under the name Team Rocket. And your mask is like, your mask. Like nothing's even bothering.
right, even though he was in the pile with the other three. So, but maybe that was just kind of a decoy thing because he is psychic, so one would think that he wouldn't be as affected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not even just that, but I mean, maybe he was just sleeping. He's like, yeah, I'll wait for Jesse and James and Meow to get here.
Yeah, it's cozy and dark. I could get a quick nap.
So,
Um,
but
they get out, so they
oh,
get out of their motto, and Jesse's like, "Quick, Meowth, we've got to get out of here." And Meowth, ever being the company man that he is like, "This might be the easiest chance we have to catch Pikachu." And this is when James is like, "But if the Litwick catch us, we're fucked because we found out that they've been draining our life energy." And on that cue, we just see a bunch of really bright uh, flames, not only coming from the Litwick, but also coming from a Lampet, which,
yes.
using context clues, we can find out that he's kind of the ringleader. The the Litwick flames are just as tall as they've been, and all of the humans are petrified.
Yep, and we get a Dexter entry and find out that Lampet is the evolved form of Litwick, which makes sense. And um so it and we also find out that it's a really big ring bearer for leading people to the ghost world is what Dexter says, and Lampet does not shut off the Pokédex when this entry comes up, and I wanted to make note of that, Doug.
And Iris and Ash kind of have a moment of, well, that can't be good. And then Lamping throws out a move, and all the four Lampwicks come together and they combine their powers, and everybody has to duck out of the way. There's just smoke, and then all of a sudden there's this big, gigantic hole in the brick wall.
The multiverse.
It's the multiverse, exactly. And all the humans together are basically, what the fuck? Um, and Iris is like, is this the ghost world that the Pokédex was talking about.
And
And
they're like, man, they're not getting Meowth is like, they're not gonna get us. This is all in poor taste. And then all the Litwick goes and uses Shadow Ball to try to push everyone over to the ghost world. And everyone's holding on. And then we get an Inferno move done by Lampet, and everyone is they make the hole bigger, and Meowth is just holding on for dear life. He's like, oh man, this sucks. This sucks. So we come to find out that this mansion seems to have been made by the Litwick, because they are just demolishing this this mansion to pieces and making the entire inside a ghost world. And that's kind of creepy, because if this was an actual mansion, how many people did they really send over to the ghost world that couldn't fight off these Litwick, Doug?
yeah, that's a hell of a question. This would almost make a great movie because you would have more time to expand on this shit.
For real. But then, of course, it wouldn't be a Pokemon episode, a horror Pokemon episode, without a Pokemon battle. You want to go over the battle, Doug?
So Silent basically it's a period at the end of the sentence and is like, if we don't defeat Lampin and Litwick, we're going to be banished to the ghost world once and for all. And so Ash is like, well, that was about as good a time as any. And he throws out Oshawott, and he tells Oshawott to use
Water gun.
her gun, and the the Lampet gets behind the Litwick, and all together they use Protect. So obviously it doesn't do nothing. And Silent throws out Dwebble and tells him to use X Scissor. And pardon me, that kind of breaks through the group, and very there's a word I wanted to use, and very very weakly throws out Woobat, and
Yeah, her ball just flopped. And let me also point out that all the Pokemon that were inside of their Pokeballs were not affected by the Litwick at all, because they're at full strength.
She has Woobat use a move, and James tells Yamask to use Shadow Ball.
Yeah,
kind of surprised he didn't.
She told Wobak to use Air Slash.
And Yamask to use Shadow Ball. And the Litwick are dodging the moves, and they get
Psychic.
Woobat up in a Psychic. And how is Yamask affected? Like, isn't he as well? So wouldn't it like cancel out?
I mean, yes and no, but Yamask, I believe Yamask is both a ghost and a. I'm gonna look it up right now. I believe it's a ghost and psychic type. But let's continue this battle. I will have that answer in just a second for you, Doug.
So Woobat and Yamask get thrown into Jesse and James, and now they are hanging on with Meowth, and you know,
No, it's
like,
just
"Oh, we're
it is
fucked."
just a ghost type. So yes, psychic moves will affect it.
That's handy.
Yep.
And we see that the Litwick's flames are huge, and yeah, Lampet's just sitting back there like an absolute boss.
Yup. And I'm sorry, but this ending, doesn't. I want to know. Oh, okay, that's what happens. Because we get all of our heroes get hit with Shadow Ball, and James is holding on to Silent. Ash is holding on to Jesse to save him, and they're like, "Let's combine all of our attacks as once. Perfect blend." Silent goes, of course, and James is like, "Quick, you mask, use Shadow Ball," and your mask does Shadow Ball, and the Litwick use a protect again. Dweeble, X scissor attack now, and X scissor again, and all the Litwick cannot protect against it. Lampet uses Inferno again, but Oshawott beats it off with a water gun and it explodes. And Wobat uses Air Slash again, and this time it hits Lampet. And quick, Twerps, your turn. And Pikachu, use Electro Ball. And Pikachu does Electro Ball, and Electro Ball goes down and hits every single Litwick and Lampet and sends them straight into the ghost world. And the mansion comes back into one. And they're like, "Oh, where did they go? They must have gone over to the ghost world." And Jesse and James are like, "Yay, we're back to normal. We got our energy back. Now let's leave this house of horrors." And Silent's like, "Yeah, we can leave now too." And they just all just run out of this house. And they're like, "Yeah, I bet you won't go into uh, another mansion that's not yours again. I bet you won't. I bet you will." Um, but when they run out, we see that the mansion is all beat up and torn apart, and they come to the conclusion that it is an abandoned mansion, and that the Litwick were using an illusion to make the mansion look a lot uh, a lot nicer than it really is. And
Because it wants to draw people in to drain them.
yes, and Jesse and James and Meowth have back jetpacks on. They're like, "Next time we see you, the gloves are off. But thank you for helping us. But next time, Pikachu will belong to us. So count on it." And they use their jetpacks and they're gone like boss. And Team Rocket, they're like, "Yeah, good. It's time for us to leave too." Silent goes, and Silent and th- Iris is like, "I smell rain again." And Ash is like, "Again?" And she's like, yeah. But this time they're just going to go and run in the rain and try to find another spot to go to. And this time they find a hole in a tree. So now they're just going to wait it out inside of the hole in the tree for the rain to stop. And that is how we end this week's episode.
They were standing there like they were waiting on a bus.
I know. But
They,
great
yeah,
episode.
fantastic episode. Feel like maybe they realized they ran out of time on the ending
I think so.
because it was just kind of it felt rushed, and I understand you're dealing with the time constraints of a isolated episode of television. But it felt like they got to like 18 minutes and they're like, "Oh shit, how are they going to get out of this? Because we didn't make it a two-parter, which this would have been a good two-parter."
It would have been. Yeah. And they should have. I mean, they already cut the damn Team Rocket episode. They could have added this and made this a two-parter, but I guess um, this was already in post-production by the time that they did cut that um, those episodes. So I guess that's why we didn't get it.
Yeah, that would be my thought because expanded on this if anybody was looking for votes.
Yes. So, what would you give this episode, Doug?
This episode was a 4.5. I absolutely loved it. Even with the cop out ending. I mean, the battle at the end was nice, but it never really felt like it was in doubt. So I think all it was missing for me to get to a 5 was maybe one of them catching a Pokemon or an evolution,
Well, we did
or
get the
if I,
evolution. We got Lampet. and
We
Litwick.
saw the evolve form. We didn't get one of the Lampwick evolving.
Oh, that is true. True.
So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, a solid 4.5 for me easily.
Okay. Well, that being said, Doug, I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice solid 4 star on my end. This was a really good episode. And now it's time to open up this Pokemon pack and get on out of here, bro. And this time I'm gonna motion this and say that there is no way you get this you get the energy wrong this week. There is no way that you get it wrong. So please don't get it wrong. But what energy was the star of this week's booster pack, Doug?
Has to be psychic.
There you go. I was about to say, I was like, you can't get this one wrong. So yes, we got a psychic energy, a double turbo energy, a Kindler, a Primplump, a Cubchoo, Duskull, a Farfetch'd, an Execute, a Grimer, my reverse hollow is an Alchemy, and my non-hollow is a Wormadam. Yeah, fucking Wormadam. So definitely a dud pack. Um, I'm glad these Pokemon packs that I get come in. I'm glad there's 30 of them at a time, because if I were getting these one at a time, I would be highly upset if I got this booster pack. But you already got your codes out, everybody. So other than that, you want to go ahead and say goodbye, Doug?
Hey, Doug.
And this is Wrestling Chris G, thanking all of you for clicking this week's episode. And don't miss next week, because we're back to Kanto, everybody. So have a good night, and I will see you then.